10:34 is the time. Emma writes, people clutch their pearls when modern rhetoric is compared to Nazi ideology, as if the Germans were a genocidal race apart. Most don't understand the foundations of fascism, nor that the chief proponent of pre-war eugenics and dehumanization was actually the US. The slippery slope of hate is very well greased, and ignorant, sneering hate-mongers like Braverman are the exact type to profit from human misery. It's got to be stopped. I just don't know how when the applause of a crowd is so intoxicating. I mean, how many times can we sit here and say, I can't believe that this is actually happening? And I would stress again, crikey, here's a phrase. Maybe this is me bending over too far backwards to keep things civilized. Maybe today's not a day for trying to keep things civilized. Maybe today is a day for coming out with all guns blazing. But just because Joan Salter is a Holocaust survivor doesn't make her infallible. It doesn't make her right about everything, but she can be right about her feelings. Only she can be right about her feelings. I happen to think that her analysis of Suella Braverman's language and the language of most Tories at the moment is bang on the money. And I think that the comparisons and the parallels to the vocabulary of Nazism are entirely justified. But you can't turn off your critical faculties just because the person who is speaking has a personal history or a backstory that's incredibly powerful and moving. I'm just mentioning that in case you want to ring in and defend Braverman. But if a Holocaust survivor tells you that what you're doing resurrects the ghosts of that nightmare, two things occurred to me. Number one, how can you pledge to press on regardless? And number two, how can you sit there and applaud the person? Essentially, you're being asked to choose between somebody whose family were murdered in the Holocaust and somebody who is using the language that led to the Holocaust. And a significant number of people in that room in Fareham decided to applaud the person using the language that led to the Holocaust. And listen, Auschwitz Memorial tweeted yesterday, I doubt coincidentally, because this story got a lot of traction on social media, you're unlikely to read it in your super soaraway right-wing newspapers this morning, or the kind of people who are spending their time at the moment trying to turn you against Just Stop Oil protesters are unlikely to share much of the detail of this story with you. But the Auschwitz Museum itself tweeted yesterday, Auschwitz did not fall from the sky. Auschwitz took time. The industrial murder was at the end of a long process which began with coining the idea. Words and propaganda reinforced stereotypes and prejudice. Legal exclusion and dehumanization was followed by escalating violence. No one's suggesting that's the master plan for Suella Braverman or any of the other Tories, which is precisely why I'm asking you the second question today. When someone points out what you're echoing, you presume, accidentally and unintentionally, why would you not suddenly go, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of it like that. You know what it's like. This is politics. We all get caught up in the language sometimes. But the last thing I would ever want to do is use language that reminds you of the Holocaust. But she didn't. You heard her response. I will not apologize for using language that reminds you of the Holocaust, was pretty much the summation of what she said. Oof. James is in Hersham. James, what would you like to say?
I don't think Braverman should apologise for what she said. I don't think words swarm and invasion have got anything to do with the respectful lady who had to lead the Holocaust, because the Jews were indigenous to Germany, so they never swarmed or invade.
Yeah, go on.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think Braverman should apologise for what she said.
Okay.
I think she's right.
Because the Jews were indigenous to Germany?
Well, the Jews were indigenous to Germany, so they didn't swarm or invade. So I don't know why...
You know, they rounded up Jews in Poland and France, and she wasn't even from Germany, I don't think, this woman. She was from Belgium.
Okay.
So, what well, the whole notion of... The whole notion of the master race eschews completely the notion that the Jews are indigenous to any European countries. You don't need me to tell you that. So why mention that at the outset?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
Why mention indigenous German Jews at the outset when we're talking about
Well, I didn't know
Holocaust.
she was from Belgium. I mean, she was indigenous to Belgium, so...
Quite an odd position to arrive at without having all the facts in front of you, James.
Well, there's the facts. She was from Belgium. She didn't swarm or invade anywhere.
Right.
So for her to be upset...
So why
about
did the
Babylon-
Nazis use that language then?
They didn't, did they?
Well, I mean, this is silly now.
Well, there's no evidence of that, is there?
There's no evidence of the Nazis using language
Well,
like
it's not swarm or
vermin
invade.
or invasion or swarm to describe
We're not
Jews.
talking about vermin. We're talking about the two words swarm and invade.
Well, I'm adding
Well,
vermin to the list now as well. If you're unaware of how the
Well,
Nazis...
No, you can't be... I mean, if you're just going to keep adding words, then we could be here all day talking about words.
Yes, you're right. We are here all day talking about words.
No, but we're just talking about two specific words, what Braverman said.
Yes.
And I don't think she was wrong in using them words.
But you don't think the Nazis used them either, James. So your position
No, I
is
don't.
already a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not really, no. I mean, for the people to clapping or applauding, they obviously agree with what Braverman was saying.
You would be as well, wouldn't you?
I would be, yeah.
So if Joan Salter was here now and she is telling you that this language reminds her of how the Nazis spoke about people like her, the ones that got away and of course the ones that were murdered in the camps, what would you say to her?
I wouldn't say that you swarmed or invade anywhere.
No, but she's saying this language reminds me of how they spoke about us.
How does them two words remind her?
Well, she's told you. I'll tell you again if you want.
Well, no,
I
mean,
feel
that's what-
very strongly that the Holocaust ended in the death camps, but it started with words, with othering the Jewish people. This isn't too many words for you, is it, James?
No, it's not even
No,
to start
okay.
with, eh?
With othering the Jewish people, blaming them for all the problems in Germany, and I'm afraid that the actions and words of our Home Secretary is very similar. She needs to look into her humanity rather than dehumanising a group of people, many of whom are absolutely desperate. So how would you set her straight?
I'd say to her that she didn't swarm or invade anywhere. She was from Belgium. She was made to leave.
And if she said to you,
Through the
I have no
Nazis.
idea what you're talking about, how would you
Well, she
clarify?
wouldn't say that, would she? How do you know what she'd say?
Well, that's why I used the word if.
Well, I don't think she would say that. I mean, I don't think she did swarm or invade anywhere. She was indigenous to Belgium as a Jew.
Okay.
She had to leave Belgium because the Nazis made her leave. And I think Bradman's right. We are being swarmed and invaded.
There we go. That's fine then. So you use the same language that they used.
Yeah, I'm using them two words. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And
Not
so
vermin,
and so
not
and so
vermin
did
or
the
any other
Nazis.
words. Not vermin or any other words you want to add in. Just swarm and invade.
Yeah. So you're on the radio defending Nazi language and saying that you'd use it too.
No, I ain't a Nazi. I'm Irish. So I'm an Irish Catholic.
So
I
was
wouldn't be
William
defe-
Joyce, actually, mate.
I wouldn't be defending like the Nazis.
But just
I'm
just their
defending
language, just the way they talked about.
Well, no, I don't
Jews.
think. But you're calling Braverman a Nazi.
No. Joan Salter is accusing her of using the same language that the Nazis used to
No,
talk
but
about
you just
Jews.
said to me, I'm happy using that Nazi language.
Yes, that's not calling you a Nazi, is it?
Well, it is in a way, isn't it?
No.
Well, I'm not using Nazi language.
You just said you would. You just said it is a swarm and it is an invasion.
It is, yeah. That's
Yeah,
not
but
Nazi language.
that's what the Nazis would say about the Jews.
No, they haven't.
Well, this is the point where the conversation sort of began and ended, because they just did, mate. Read a book.
Where did the Nazis ever say they were being swarmed and invaded?
I'll tell
by
you what,
Jews?
just go and Google it. And
Why do
then
I
when
need
you've
to Google
Googled it, ask yourself why you didn't do that before you rang in.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
On you go.